Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to Planner Craft. It's been a while. So, hopefully today we're going to be doing a bit of software work and we're looking at print and cut without using the print and cut add-on. So, for what we're going to be doing today, you are going to be able to use any image editing software. What is wrong with me today? I can't get my teeth in. So, I've started a document that's A4 in size at 300 dpi. So that means that it's going to be good enough quality to print. Now obviously when we're looking at doing things with our scan and cut normally, we're working about 96 dpi. But that's because we're working with pass rather than a dot paste image, which is what a photo is. Hi Carol, hi Deb. So we are currently streaming live to YouTube, Facebook page and the Facebook group. But Ian's only human, he can only see one set. So we will try and flick through comments as and when. So to get started we need to put something actually on the sheet that we're going to be printing and cutting. So this could be that you've wanted to do a particular illustration, it could be that you've done a set of stickers, or it can be, as we're going to do now, just that you're importing some images that you want to cut. So let's go from there. So if you're using Photoshop in particular, you're going to see that you have two options for place. One is linked and one is embedded. The difference between the two is if you do it linked, it's just going to pull a link to that file in. So that if you then change it and come back into the document, you're going to find that any changes you make are going to update. Whereas embedded means that you're going to take a copy of that file and you're actually going to put it inside this file. Now, linked tends to take less memory, just because obviously you're not actually importing all that data into your document. You're just kind of forming a link that's going to go and pull that data down when you need it. So I'm going to go embedded for today. So this would be where you've got your final artwork and it's exactly what you want and you can just pull it in. Now, I could use my 80 summer things, couldn't I? I was looking at doing something else, but we could use those. So I'm going to go into my printables. Okay, we can wait. What's the issue?
Can't see.
Oh. That's no good. Shit. Can anybody see me?
I can.
Shall I just...
Got you.
Okay. Okay. So, I'm going to be working with PNGs. Usually these have transparent backgrounds, which means that if you're doing something like print and cut, it's going to make life a lot easier. So, I'm going to put in just one image to start with, and let's go palm tree. And we're just going to place that in document. Just going to have a little think about it, and there we go. I'm not doing another deck chair. So we can size that to what we need. Just press and hold shift to keep it in proportion. And I'm going to go a bit smaller, like so. There we go. Okay. And then you can see that it goes from being that really pixelated view to being proper image. Painting went well actually. I've got quite a few little samples that are ready to kind of mount up into cards. So I'm going to start off with this one, and what I'm going to do is, rather than trying to do an offset in Photoshop, which is never going to work, I'm just going to leave that as is. But when we come to actually go into Canvas, we're going to put an offset around it so that we're going to have a white line, which is one way of treating images where you have a very distinctive outline like this. But what about if you have something where you are going to want to cut up to an edge? That's when we start using things called bleeds. So I'm going to start off by bringing in another image. So let's go for
Peach Hut.
You're Obsessed.
That colour reminded me of Peach Hut. I'd forgotten Peach Hut. I didn't say Peach Hut or texture. Honest, it wasn't me. That reminded me. And Louise says hi.
Hello. So I'm going to go for Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Which one should we go for? Something a bit different. Let's go for the box. Oh, I don't want the actual text. Let's cancel that. I want the actual image. So it's the other one. Choose it too. There we go. So there's our big box. And let's say we want to create a tag from that. So we don't want to use the whole image. So I'm going to resize that to roughly the right size. And I'm going to press enter, which is going to apply it. And you can see it goes into sharper focus. And then let's pop a shape in the background. Now, when we do this shape, we are going to want to do it so that it is bigger than what we want to cut it. So bleeds is where we extend our design past the cut line. So I'm going to pop in a rectangle like so. Don't worry at this point about what colour it is. I'm going to drop it down beneath our beat box. You can see our beat box already has a white offset around it. And we can extend that box down just a little bit. Cool. Okay. I'm going to go back to my shape tools. I'm going to get Polygon Tool. And rather than a 5-sided one, I need a 6-sided one. So up here in the top, we can change our 5 to a 6. And we can resize that. Just going to move it and just resize it so that it's.
Oh no, Lily broke her arm. She
Huh?
was just spraying it. Lily.
Oh no! Poor thing. Okay, so with those two, like so. Now obviously at this point, normally in Illustrator we'd rolled it, but because we're working in Photoshop, it's not quite the same. So what you can do, you can either wait and export it into Illustrator and do it that way, or you can just not worry about it because it's print and cut and you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so let's click off that for a moment. So our cut line is actually going to go round inside our coloured area, and the same for the little hole in the middle. So your bleeds are there to basically prevent you having a sort of white line on one or two sides where you haven't quite got your alignment right. And it's something you can find quite noticeable when you are using direct cut. What is wrong with me today, honestly? It's the heat. Tired. So let's do something else. Let's embed something different. So I'm going to go back up a folder or two.
Where's your one?
Yeah, I'm using mine. So if you like these, you can get them on Creative Fabrica. So I'm going to go to PNG again. And we can pick one of these to play with. Let's go for one of these textured ones. So I can bring in a background. Now if I wanted to, I could go and use this shape here to apply that. But I'm just going to leave this as is for now. And let's paint something else. Oh, don't forget to say yes. Okay, so let's go for this one. So because these are PNGs, they're going to have a transparent background whenever we've used white. So anything that normally has a white background, you can apply a colour beneath. So I can just hit enter on that, and I can just line that up like so. Now again, because if we're looking at adding our bleeds, that's going to make this text a bit close, we can start to play with it a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in, and because it's embedded, we've actually got this as a smart object at the moment. So when you see this little icon, it's there as a smart object, which means that we can actually edit it. So this is quite cool. This means that we can actually start to play with how these shapes work. So I'm going to zoom in this way. If it'll be good. Come on. It's because it's full screen. Let's see if I can shrink it just a little bit. There we go. Just so I can get down here. Now, I want to move this text up a bit, and I'm also going to try and move it in a little bit, but we'll see how we go.
A nice cool ice cream, just what the doctor wanted.
Yeah, just what we need. So, I am going to take my marquee tool, just so I can do a selection. Now, if we move this up, you're going to go, oh right, okay, I've got nothing down there to move it up with. What am I going to do? But we can actually start to play with that a little bit, so that we're using, you can use something called content aware in some cases, but it does depend on your software. So for this first instance, I'm going to show it to you as if you've got a bit of a bog standard selection. So let's go and select that again. Don't want to have quite so much of a selection. There we go. I'm going to move this up. So that's going to take that up a bit. I went too far. Back there. Okay. Then what we can do is we can take a copy of this area up here by going back to our marquee tool. And we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it. So in this case, it's going to look like a little purple square that we can just go and drag that down here. And don't worry about lining it up. I'm just going to do that like that. And because our little element here just cut off, we can go back in and just edit that to finish it off. Hi Maggie! So let's duplicate that layer because it's the same colour as this bit. We can take it and rotate it. Come on, rotate, there we go. I'm just going to line that up so it lines up with that line. And like so, that's about right. If we look at our other stripes here, we can go OK. We can save that. Okay. If it is that, it just means that the layers aren't quite right, so we can flatten it. And rather than save it back to the PNG, what I'm actually going to do is do a save as. I'm going to save it on the computer. And then we can give it a name. So I'm going to go back to Pocket Cards. And we can say amended. And then we should see that that updates in a minute, if we're lucky. If not, we can just re-import it. But usually when you just save it, normally it will update. It's only me because I'm being like, I don't want to save over my original because that's what's uploaded up to Creative Fabrica. So let's grab that one, bring it in, hit enter, and this time we can see that we're going to have this issue with the white because we did that flatten. So there's a couple of options. We can be really lazy and we can multiply it, but we can also do a layer mask, and we can actually manually erase that. So if I take the eraser to my layer mask, I can put that colour back in. But quick tip, I'm going to get rid of that layer mask and I'm going to hide my background so that we can see our checkered background here. We can use our magic wand so that we actually select the white background, or we can use the object selection tool and things like that. So let's go for the magic wand first, because that's what you'll have in 99% of the programs. Something where you can go, okay, I'm going to select the white, and then we can do our layer mask. Now occasionally you will find that it does it that way round, and you'll think, what have I done wrong? You haven't done anything wrong. All you're going to do is you are going to invert it. So Command and I on a Mac or Control and I on a PC. You can then go back into that and you can go, okay, if I want to put that white outline back in, I can do that. Or I can even, let's go a little bit easier actually. If I go into Effects, Stroke, and make a stroke white rather than purple. We can put a white outline in. We can shrink it down to how much it's going to do it. And if we zoom back out, we can match back to this one. So I'm going to take that down to there. Okay. And we can even play with the opacity of it. So if it feels like it's a bit too bright, we can tone it back. We can go okay. Now if you want to deal with the centre of your letters, you can do that in exactly the same way. So I'm going to get me little magic wand back. I'm just going to delete each bit, and it's going to put that white outline back in like so. Yeah, it's going to be a bit trickier there. So what I'm going to do, rather than try and do that using our magic wand, if we zoom in, we can get our eraser and we can shrink it right down. So we're going to go in there, and it may be that to start with we might not get that much appearing because if we're putting the stroke around the outside. Let me just see if I can just get that a little bit better, because that is not working. So let's, why is it not wanting to work today? Come on. I'm on the background, I'm on the layer mask, come on. There we go. And I want it to be there we go. Now, what you're going to have to bear in mind is wherever you try and put this out, is you would have to then do that whole area. So, another trick. Let's go back a couple. We can still edit our shape here. So, let's go back into this one. Let's zoom in and we can sort it out from here. So we know that's going to have an orange background in it anyway, so we can just pinch that colour from there. So we can use our eyedropper, which is usually a key press of I. Very occasionally it would be an E, but more often than not it should be an I. We can use our brush and we're going to size it right down. So you can see when we're zoomed in this much, we've got a grid, and that's showing you actual pixels, and it's much easier way of colouring on occasion, so that we can see where we want to drop that colour in. Okay, and I'm going to do the same in here. Try and keep that white border, but where your two colours meet, you want to try and get the two to blend together, like so. And from there we should be alright. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out, and this time we can just save and close, and that's going to update back into our current document, like so. It's cool. Okay, so as I said, at the moment this bit here is a little bit too close. So what we can do is we can take our original orange rectangle, which we know extends at this point more or less up to this edge here, and we can actually get the right orange rectangle. There we go. I'll sort that one out in a minute. We can actually extend that over here, so let's go there. So we're just going to drop back into this one, and at the moment we've got kind of white line showing, and I think that's going to be down to my layer mask. So let's go in there, make it bigger, there we go, ding, 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 and now it goes, like so. And we can actually link our layers too, so if I want to do it so that those two are kind of tied together, it's a little bit too much. Let's just bring that back right there. We can shift and click, and we can link or group. I'm going to do it now for me. No. Sometimes it's just easier to use a keyboard once you get to know your shortcuts. So it's just Command and G. Let's sort out my box from up here. So you can change in preferences whether you want your pointer tool to just click between elements, or if you want to keep it so that it doesn't click off them. It's up to you, whichever you find easier. So far so good. We've got a tag that we can cut out, we've got a tree that we can do just kind of tracing around. What else might we do? Print and cut. My brain's going to go, blank. Because kind of if we do text, it's only going to be the same as this one. Actually, let's do text. Let's do text very quickly. And if I remember, I will do a font that I can use in both. Oh, it's going to be big text apparently. Let's shrink that down just a touch. Okay, so it's gone with Dunbar Low, if you want to remember that for me. And then when we come back to Canvas, Dunbar Low. Yeah, Dunbar Low. The name of the font.
Dunbar Low.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go for let's be boring. summer. Deck chairs. Okay, so if we go over into our properties, we can change colour. What should I change it to?
I'll ask if it's related to Deirdre.
Could be related to me, couldn't it? Okay, so let's pop that there. What? Actually, do you know what would be really cool is if we did like a gradient on it, but I don't know if I feel that kind of brave today. No, I'm not feeling it today. It's a bit too warm. So let's finally put our registration marks together. So just looking at this, let's organise my layers a bit better so that I can select those three and group them so that we can move things around. So I'm going to bring that in a little bit, this, so that I can then go to this group, bring that in a little bit, and this one I can come in just from the edge a little bit. Now you could use the shape tool, and we're going to go for a rectangle and go for a darker colour, so let's go for a proper black, and I'm going to put in a square there and one over here, and it's going to be lovely rounded corners for some reason, but and when we come down to the bottom we're going to go up a little bit, and that's because with most printers you're going to find that you tend to have more of a cut off for your print area at the bottom than you do at the top. Does it matter what kind of shape you use? Nope, it doesn't, because it's there for your kind of reference. Do they all have to match? No, they don't. It's literally there for when you are wanting to scan it onto your machine and line up your cut line. Now, if you're happy at this point, we can actually flatten the whole thing. We can discard anything hidden, okay. There we go. So we've got our start of our sheet. Then we can export it, and we can do a quick export as a PNG. It's going to be so quick, it's not even going to ask me, isn't it? There we go, we get there. So I'm going to go into, let's go into the actual 80 something folder. Let's start a new folder just so I know it's different. And project files. And let's call this one print and cut test. I'm just going to save it as a PNG. Now the reason I've done that as a PNG rather than a PDF or anything else is when we take that through to Canvas, we only need it as a guide. We're not going to use it to trace anything, okay? If you want to use it to trace, you are better off using it as a JPEG, so that you can actually bring it in and trace it and then do it at a higher resolution. So to do that, we can export as.
I don't know what happened there, but it changed to the new thanks video.
Oh.
Randomly all by itself.
Who did that the other day to me?
I caught it then, I thought it was too fast.
That's a bit random. Okay, so with our file there, we can go and export it. Now, see where it says about metadata? That's only important if you're going to be selling or uploading your file. If you're just going to be using it for your personal use only, then you can just leave it in none and just go fine. And Let's export that. I'm going to go back to the same folder with the same name, save. Okay. So this is kind of where we get up to with Photoshop. Just remember that you also need to print it, so you can go to File and Print, and then make sure that you set your printer up accordingly. It's also a good opportunity to make sure that your registration marks aren't cutting off, that there's nothing kind of being chopped off any of the edges, and then you can just hit print. Ooh, excuse me. In terms of materials, you might want to use photo paper, card, something that's got a bit more oomph to it than normal printer paper. Moving into Canvas, as you do. Let's make this bigger. Let's do it this way, because otherwise you can't see the bottom. There we go. Like so. And I'm going to go to File, Import from your computer. Go back to the project files, and then we can pick up one of our images. Let's go for the JPEG. And we can bring that in. Now straight away you're going to see this is huge and not the right scale. That's because it's at the 300 dpi. So if we go to Edit, we can adjust our width, and that should pull our height up to 297. So there's our A4 sheet. Now, if we were to send this to the scanning cut as it is, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to go, no. So what we need to do is actually start putting in our cutting information. So I'm going to start off by adding a rectangle. I'm going to rotate that. If we press and hold shift while we're rotating, it's going to snap to the 90 degrees. And you'll notice I'm putting that box just inside the printed edge. Like so. So that means whatever's on around this outside edge isn't going to be in our cut. And that's fine. He's just extending there to save us having too much difficulty aligning. Now, with our tag shape, it's going to be a little bit more tricky because it's not going to be a basic shape that we can just go ding ding, job done. So I'm going to add in, first of all, our tag shape, and we're going to size that inside like so. And it's going to be much easier to get that more complex shape done first, and then we can size our rectangle to match. So again, we're going to click and drag that in, rotate that around, line it up, pull it in that way, and up at the bottom here. Okay, now if you're struggling to see what you're doing, just zoom in a bit. So at this point we will select both of our shapes. We can go to Edit and we can align them into the middle, and distribute space down here we can set to 20 and use our vertical spacing, and we know then that there is no space between the two shapes. So if you've got a little bit of a pointy stick out bit either side, then just adjust that in very slightly. and back out just a bit on that side. There we go. And then we can weld the two together. So we have our tag shape. And we can pop a hole in our tag too. So we're just going to add a circle. It's going to be huge. We can take that right down. And then if something's too small for you to grab a hold of it, just use your keys. So I'm pressing and holding shift so that it can move quicker. But then once you've got it more or less where you want it, you can just nudge it. And we can even select both shapes and just use our align to make sure it's in the middle. Nice and easy. One of those occasions where actually you might want to pop a bit of white in your shape so that you can see that it should be a hole. Now that white obviously isn't going to transfer to your print, so don't worry about it.
Could you subtract it if you really wanted to?
Yes, you can subtract it and then it keeps its two shapes. All depends on what you're doing with it. So to do that, if you select the two, then you're going to go to subtract and it's going to pop that hole through. Just note that when you do that, your shape is going to become part of that entity. So that if you then try and apply your white, all you're going to do is hide your tag. Okay. So far so good. So let's go down and do our text. I'm going to get my text tool and I'm going to type summer. And at the top we've got a list of fonts. So if you can remember your font, come on, be good. Come on. Scroll, 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 scroll. At least it was only a D. Could have been worse. D. Go on, tell me I managed to pick one font that it can't work with.
You picked the one that wasn't there.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. I can trace it. So
That wasn't a bad match, considering.
it wasn't, was it? So I'll come back to the text in a minute, but if you've got the text and it works, then what you can do is just put on, do an offset and weld it and job done. Just obviously, I can't believe I managed to pick one that doesn't have a link to it. So for my tree, I am just literally going to do a very rough outline. Because if we're there tracing every single bit of it, under a tree, we could be here for some time. So when you want to do a curve, you're just clicking and dragging. When you want to do a point, you're just going to click once and let go. Okay, so I'm just going to go into here, and now I can come back and sort that node out afterwards. Drag that curve there, and there. And obviously if you want to get more intricate and do an offset around all these individual elements, and what you can do is do a manual tracing.
Could you use the image tracing that it has?
I'm going to get onto that next. So let's just...
Next time.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to be long today, didn't I?
You did.
So let's see if I can sort out this little node in here. So this one, that's right. And let's sort this one out. So that little button that I just clicked up here, that locks your arms of your each point as being equal. So just deselect that when you have something that needs to go into a tighter corner. And this one just here, it's just I think I'm happy with that. So we've got a basic sticker outline. Now let's zoom back out and sort our summer out. So obviously we could just put a rectangle around that, or an oval or something like that to just cut it out, but I want to actually cut that out as a sentiment. So our other option is, let's go to image tracing. It's an image in the computer. We can go back to our same image. Now bear in mind that it's going to be looking at it at full size. And we're going to drag in our outer area because we only want to trace that summer. So, like so. Rather than trace outer edge only, if you want to, and it's of a size that you want to do this, if you want to get the centres of your letter, you would do areas by colour, or if you really want to get involved with the actual tracing, you can go to enhanced image tracing. But for now, let's leave it on outer edge only. We are going to be honest, because there's only two colours in it, that's fine. I'm happy with the trace. So we can go preview. Just going to think about it. Okay, so our blue lines have gone from our other elements. Let's go OK. And it's going to bring it in huge. Absolutely huge. Because it's gone back to that full size. In your layers, we can see that we've got our individual letters and then a copy of our image. So if we click on the image first of all, we can just delete that. And then we've got summer as a group here. Now this is going to be fun to try and move because at the moment it's got no contents to it. Let's give it a colour. Just to make it a little bit easier to move for the time being. And we can zoom back in. So to do that with the keyboard, it is Command and plus, and Control and plus should work on a PC. I'm going to line up the left hand edge of the shape with the left hand edge of the summer there, and then we can resize it down so that the right hand edge lines up with the right hand side of that R, like so. Okay, so far so good. So now I'm going to move that so it's over the top, and you'll see that it's got a few issues with that shape in terms of the roundness of the edges and things. But at this point, don't worry about it. So, with that group now, what we need to do is we actually need to expand that shape so that we're going around the outside. So, we can go offset. And obviously 5mm is going to be way too big. So let's go for a 2mm. We're going to go outwards. And at the moment you have two options for your corner type, which is round and bevel. Round is going to do 98% of your projects. We can leave the original line as is, but we can also delete it. So I'm going to be going outside for my cut line, and hopefully, so long as everything's alright, we don't need that original line anymore, so we can just go to delete. And it's got the option ticked here for create an offset line around only the outer edge. That's fine too, because we haven't got the holes in the centre of our letters anyway. We're going to go OK, and you can see that now you've got all these shapes, and they now overlap because we've done the extra amount. If we go into our layers, you can see the group's now gone, and we've now got these shapes here instead. So wait for it to select everything. Come on. There we go. And we can weld those together. That's going to give you a nice white outline around, and we can delete these elements in here too. So if we click on the shape again, it's going to give you nodes. If we just go over those, we can delete those out. So click and drag over the top and just delete. Click back off the shape, job done. Oh, let's just get the one around the S too. There we go. Always be consistent. And there we go. So that is how we can do print and cut without using a add-on. So, any questions? I've covered loads in that. Considering I was only going to do a quick one. What I will do is, if I just hop back into Streamlabs just to see if there's any other chat, it's going to look a bit. Mum's watching. Hi, Mum. And let's just very quickly check. Pauline's struggling as well. Oh. That could be our end though, because there's been work happening with OpenReach, hasn't there? So we don't have the best cables. But
Deb says thanks.
That's okay. And I look forward to seeing what you will be doing with print and cut. So, challenge for you. Why don't you have a go over the next few days? At the end of the day, it's not going to feel like doing much else other than digital stuff. So, pop the copy up in the group so that we can see what you're making. If you want to play with these particular files, you can download them from Creative Fabrica. I don't think I set it to be very expensive, did I?
It's £5, I think.
Yeah.
Deb has been fine on her Facebook. As I watched it all on Facebook on the other group, it's been fine, so I don't know why it's...
It could be just going to the group, couldn't it?
Yeah, because I put it on Planner Craft.
Yeah. I'm starting to think it's going to the group, which is annoying because it tends to get pushed out more when it's done through the group, but yeah. Yeah.
It says lovely design, thank you.
So, I will be... Am I streaming tomorrow?
If you feel like it. I'm dancing, so...
Yeah. So, Mr. won't be around. I'll see how I feel. Or I might go in the morning or something. But, yeah. So, take care, and I will see you all when I see you. So if it's not tomorrow, it will be next week, and by the sounds of it, it's going to be pretty hot on Tuesday. Understatement. So, What I will say is the chances are it probably won't be Tuesday because, yeah,
90 degrees in the shade.
it's going to be 90 degrees in the shade, and yeah, my body's not enjoying the heat at the moment, shall I say. So, it will probably be Wednesday and Friday next week, and I am due to be back on PDG as well next week. So, watch the alerts that go up for when I will be streaming. Take care, and bye!